Hi, welcome back to Master Recaps. Today I will show you a sci-fi thriller film from 2018 titled Elizabeth Harvest. The story of Elizabeth, a beautiful woman who dreams of marrying the perfect man. She is married to the billionaire Dr. Henry, the owner of a huge mansion that sits on his private property, in which he allowed Elizabeth to own everything in this room, everything, money, jewels, good clothes, with the simple condition of opening the door into the room, which Dr. Henry claims it's his private office and he's not comfortable letting her know now. Elizabeth is cared for by her housewife Claire and her blind son Oliver. As the days passed, Elizabeth was very happy in this mansion. She had everything she wanted inside of it all, leaving only one thing left in her heart: that her husband, Dr. Henry, was hiding something in the room. Until one day Dr. Henry had to go out to run errands. He bid farewell to his beautiful wife affectionately because they had just been married, and did not forget to instruct Elizabeth not to enter the room. The more the suspicion raised, because when Dr. Henry has traveled outside, Elizabeth couldn't contain her curiosity. So she decided to open the door and go into that room immediately. What she saw was like a lab of sorts, with several capsules frozen in a storage container. Elizabeth decided to open it and she was shocked because it was the other herself that was immersed in a capsule. With shock and fear causing Elizabeth to rush out of the room immediately. She was cut by a sharp object until her finger was bleeding. The next morning, Dr. Henry came home. Then noticed the abnormality in his wife. She looked more worried than usual. There were also injuries caused by very sharp objects. Dr. Henry knew right away that Elizabeth had seen something she shouldn't have seen. That night, Dr. Henry decided to kill her and buried Elizabeth's body in the garden. 6 weeks later, the second Elizabeth wakes from her slumber, where she wakes up in a luxury car heading for her beloved man's mansion. Elizabeth remembers that she had recently married Dr. Henry. The couple walked into the mansion to be greeted by Oliver and Claire. Dr. Henry took Elizabeth on a wander around the rooms, telling her that everything she saw was yours. But when walking to a room, Dr. Henry walked past it without telling Elizabeth anything. So she had a doubt in her heart and asked Dr. Henry what room this was. Dr. Henry told her that this was the only room in this house that I would absolutely forbid you to enter, so I beg of you. You can dress pretty, live a fun life, spend my money as much as you want, I don't mind. But only this room, Elizabeth, you are forbidden to enter. Elizabeth, hearing this, had a dissatisfied look on her face, but agreed to accept Dr. Henry's words. As the days passed, Dr. Henry still had some work that he had to deal with outside, so he said goodbye to Elizabeth and told her the same not to open the door to the room. Of course, Elizabeth couldn't contain her curiosity. The fact that she was alone all day long had her distracted and wondered what was truly hidden in the room until she finally decided to open it, and, of course, what she found was a body itself that was immersed in a capsule. Elizabeth was so shocked that she ran away, forgetting to close the capsule she opened. This caused another Elizabeth to wake up from her hibernation to wander around the mansion and disappear. The next morning, Dr. Henry came home. He clearly noticed the abnormality in his young wife's nervousness, her expression and eyes indicating a lie. She must have sneaked in and saw the secret in that room. So Dr. Henry managed to dope Elizabeth in order to kill her easily. But before she lost consciousness, Elizabeth grabbed a knife and stabbed into Dr. Henry's neck until blood spurted out. He lost a lot of blood and died in time. A conscious Elizabeth later wakes up. Therefore hastily dragged Dr. Henry's corpse to hide in the room and came back to clean the bloodstains. In the late afternoon, Claire and Oliver returned to work at the mansion as usual. They noticed that Dr. Henry had disappeared, in which Elizabeth lied to them that Dr. Henry was still sleeping. Shortly after, Claire fell ill because of a heart attack. She immediately called the police for help before she passed out. Police and paramedics arrived at the house just in time for Claire's death. She was given first aid and was taken to further treatment. This left the mansion with only the blind Elizabeth and Oliver, which he whispered to her that he knew that Dr. Henry was dead because of the nature of this man was not someone who would wake up late. He would always be at the counter in the morning, and all I know was because he was the father. In fact, it was actually Elizabeth and Oliver who helped in handling Dr. Henry's corpse by bringing his body to be burned in the incinerator. In the meantime, a friend of Dr. Henry came to visit him to ask to meet with Dr. Henry. Oliver decides to shoot him until he dies immediately because he knows this man will have to try to figure out where his father has gone and they will both end up dead. After killing the cop, Oliver lures Elizabeth into a room and locks her inside. There she met Claire's notebook. She wasn't a housewife like Elizabeth had understood from the beginning. Rather, she was Dr. Henry's hand, who helped him in his research into cloning his wife. Her name is Elizabeth Harvest. She died after giving birth to a son named Oliver. This made Dr. Henry very sad and obsessed with doing everything to resurrect his wife. By collaborating with Dr. Claire, who is a geneticist. Subjects Elizabeth first and second died quickly due to some abnormality in her body's genes that grew faster than normal. After updating for a long time, the third Elizabeth was born. She looked very good and there was a chance they could succeed. But Elizabeth III broke the rules and opened the door into the room. She saw the secret of their experiment. Therefore, she was killed by Dr. Henry, leading to the resurrection of the fourth Elizabeth, the current woman who was locked in this room. When knowing the truth of the whole story, Elizabeth decides to plan an escape from the mansion. She took the opportunity when Oliver brought her food and immediately charged at him. But what she didn't expect was that the fifth Elizabeth she had opened the capsule she had left that day appeared with a shotgun to save Oliver's life. Oliver saw her walking inside the mansion before he brought her to hide in his bedroom. Elizabeth sees that this is not a good idea and takes Oliver as a hostage. And the sound of gunfire rang through the mansion. Another Elizabeth fires a gun at them both. Oliver dies in an instant, and Elizabeth struggles to escape her life, which isn't too late because she is shot by another Elizabeth from behind to avenge Oliver. Before her death, Elizabeth whispered the secret of the whole story to another Elizabeth, and then heard about the diary of Dr. Claire, from which she later died. Another Elizabeth returns to the mansion and manages to destroy all remaining capsules, reads Dr. Claire's diary, and the house mechanics learned from Oliver, which she had waited until Dr. Claire came back home and opened the door, while she used that moment to walk out. The door lock Elizabeth had set up worked and locked Dr. Claire in the house. She escapes with high-value money and paintings to start a new life. That's the end of the movie. Subscribe for more video like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.